Wanted to say Happy New Year to everyone. Hope it was a healthy one and a happy one. And wanted to say thank you for joining us today for today's webinar. So my name is Christian. I'm part of the marketing team here at Qit. And you can see the title of the webinar there, where we're excited to talk about our invite-only waiting room. Just a couple of quick housekeeping notes. It will be recorded, so you can go back and review it at a later time, or you can share with a colleague who might have missed it. Questions, we have set aside about 5 minutes at the end. We're trying to keep it a relatively short webinar today, but you can put that in the Q&A bar, which you should see. And if we don't get a chance at the end of today's webinar to address them, then we will reach out and follow up with you after that. So without further ado, I'd like to let our presenters, Jennifer Hughes and Martin Larsen, introduce themselves. Jennifer, would you like to start?
Sure. Hi, welcome to the webinar. I'm Jennifer Hughes. I'm the head of customer success here in North America.
Hi, I'm Martin Larsen. I've been with Qit for a long time, 11 years now. I'm the director of product, and I'm the product manager on the team that has been building this invite-only waiting room.
Great, thanks, Jennifer and Martin. So just to briefly run down the agenda, so Jennifer will first start sort of setting the scene, talking about some trends we've seen in our work with customers around the world and different industries, about ways to improve customer loyalty by using these sort of exclusivity play, hyped brand launches, product launches, and so on. And then Martin will go into depth about what the invite-only waiting room is, do a little demo. And then both Martin and Jennifer will talk about some of the benefits and opportunities that this exciting new feature presents. And like I said, we'll have 5 minutes at the end for Q&A. So Jennifer, hand it over to you.
Very good, thanks. So in customer success, we work with customers across varying industries, and particularly in retail, we've seen a move towards the exclusivity play, of creating hype, building that brand for your loyal customers and making them a part of exclusive drops and launches. This in turn helps to strengthen that loyalty by making customers feel more engaged and delivering a better customer experience. So looking at these two statistics, you can see 81% of businesses and 73% of customers consider customer experience a really key to their differentiating your brand in the minds of your customers. And that experience can also have a concrete impact on whether or not customers will purchase with you. Leading companies, including you, our customers are realizing that the experience is deserving as attention just as much as more of the traditional things like price and product quality, which we've historically based, which you've historically based your sales on in the past. And limited inventory drops or releases have been a successful way for many brands to provide a unique experience that rewards that loyalty. Again, looking at these high statistics, 67% of consumers surveyed increased their brand affinity after product drops, and 45% of consumers were more interested in product drops because the value access they get to the products. This kind of creates for the consumer that tie into FOMO, or the fear of missing out, and they also get to create that social proof by showing others what they got or what they were able to purchase or what they were able to receive. And for the consumer, you're able to create that valuable brand moment and foster a sense of community across your loyal customer base. So here's just a few examples, and it's not just limited to retail. Of course, ticketing has done member only and concert pre-sales for decades. Retail sales for paying subscribers like Amazon Prime doing Prime Day deals or things like that. And we're also seeing sales targeted by customers in the crypto and NFT drops, where customers, who have X amount of points will get first access to those new releases. So based on a tier system, you can, get the product sooner. But doing these limited sales are not always easy to do, right? It's traditionally been hard to limit access to an online store or to a limited group of identified visitors. Also, bots and abuse are always a problem with hype drops to the detriment of your loyal customers. And the consumer often can walk away with an experience of, like taking an L, like they weren't able to get the product, so they're walking away empty-handed, and how frustrating that can be. That's where we're excited to show you this new invite-only waiting room that we've developed, and where we really think can help you run these limited inventory sales and registrations more successfully. Martin, can you give us a look?
Sure, yeah. So I'm very happy to actually showcase this invite-only waiting room for the first time. It's a new feature that will help you succeed in running these limited inventory releases of product drops or cover similar use cases. And this first release here is aimed to support these use cases where your visitors are known already. So you already have them in the system. You know that they are good customers and you want to reward them. And we plan to continue development in this area, so you'll see more features added in the future. So right now it's in early access, but it is production ready. So it's available on request. Rewarding loyal customers. Yeah, so we generally see two patterns that are being explored in these product drops here. One is that you have a public sale. And in this pattern, you allow everybody to, for instance, get into the waiting room, and then you'll serve the ones that are first in the waiting room. Now, the problem here is that these waiting rooms and these sales are usually swamped with bots and bad actors. And the products thereby end up being in the wrong hands and maybe resold on secondary markets, which is probably not what you want. In either case, it tends to end up being an unfair experience for most people, and as such, not really rewarding the loyal customers, but only the ones that are have the tools to get the products faster. The other pattern that we see is what we refer to as the lottery pattern. Like, this is a pattern where you allow your customers to sign up over a longer period of time, maybe days. And then at some point you do a lottery and you notify the customers that were lucky to get the product. The problem we see in this model is that it kind of loses the hype and the fear of missing out. So if you look at the physical world, companies will typically create events. So maybe it could be member-only wine tastes, or it could be deals that people will stand in line for hours to get. So basically, you create this event that is much more than a lottery and gives users an experience. So the invite-only waiting room, we believe, allows you to keep this hype and the fear of missing out, and bring a better experience to your end users. So with the invite-only waiting room, you can manage access to the known users for your events. Now let's take a look at how it works. Basically, there are 3 steps. You have a list of known visitors or known users already. Maybe these are previous buyers. Maybe they signed up to a mailing list. They are somehow vetted, and you know that they are good users. Imagine that you have a list of 30,000 users. Now, the second step is you go and create an invite-only waiting room and generate 30,000 unique access links. So each link is personal and will only allow one place in the waiting room. And no one can access the waiting room without a link. The third part is that you distribute the links to your users, and the users then access the waiting room. Once the queuing starts, they get a randomized spot in the queue from 1 to 30,000. If all 30,000 show up, of course, and that is essentially the lottery. But the user needs to be in place at the right time and the right waiting room. From there on, you get all the normal benefits from what we known as the scheduled waiting rooms we already have. So let's try and look at it. For this walkthrough, I'm gonna use 3 tools. I've selected to use MailChimp, Excel, and Qt, of course. So first, in MailChimp, I've used this to keep my list of contacts. So these are my good users that I want to reward. I have the list here, but I'm using MailChimp. It could be any other tool, basically. But what I want to do here is I want to export the list of users, basically the list of email addresses. So I hit the export here, and I save that to a file on my computer. Next, I need to go and create a waiting room. So I jump to Qt, and I go into the Go platform, and I create a new waiting room by clicking the button here. That will open the wizard. And maybe this looks familiar to you, but this is the way that we usually create waiting rooms, other than there's a new option here to create an invite-only waiting room. So I'm going to select that one and hit next. So the next step here is, like always, you have to specify an ID for the waiting room, and you put in a display name. This is just like any other waiting room. And hit next. Then the invite-only waiting room will work just like a scheduled waiting room will do, meaning that you have a pre-queue where users can join before the actual queuing starts. And then you have a queue phase afterwards that starts at a specific point in time. So this is when when you have announced that the sale will start. So you put in the start time in this UI here, and you hit next. And this is where the invite only differs from the other type of waiting rooms we have. Basically, you have to specify how many visitors should be able to access the waiting room. And in this case, we had 30,000 in our MailChimp list. So I'm putting in 30,000 and hitting next. Again, a standard view from the wizard. You just have to verify your target domain is in the list, and then you hit create. So now you created an invite-only waiting room. On the settings here for the waiting room, you see we have a new tab called Visitor Access, and this is where you can access the access links for your users. So in this case, you see the 30,000 that we entered into the wizard is on the list here, and you can then hit generate links to actually create the access links for the users. So when you do that, you get a new pop-up here, and you have to select which domain the users should go to when they're in the waiting room. So this could be our default one called the customid.q.net, or it could be any of your waiting room domains, custom ones like q.ticketania.com. Hit generate, and the system will now generate all the links, and you can download them hitting the button here. Once you hit it, you get a list, comma separated file of 30,000 access links. Each link will look a little bit like this. So the first part of it is the first line here. That is the identifier of the waiting room. So you see that it's running HTTPS. You see that you can use any of your waiting room domains to access it. And the next part, the additional lines, where it says enqueue token, that's an individual token for each visitor. So the token is signed, so it cannot be tampered with. And it also contains a unique identifier, allowing us to verify that the user only accesses the waiting room once and only gets issued a single place in the line. So when we have the list, actually we have two files now in our file system. So we have the list of email addresses that we got from MailChimp, and then we have the access links that we got from Qt. Now we need to merge these two files, so I'm going to open them in Excel. And if you see in the back here, I have one column with email addresses, one with access links. And basically, I need to map each access link to an email address, save them to a new file, and then jump back to MailChimp. So in MailChimp, I just need to import the access links now, and I can do that with the MailChimp built-in functionality and import contacts. I'm going to skip how that is done, but basically what you can see now is that we have the access links mapped up to each email address. And then it's just a matter of sending out the emails to the end users, like always, with the individual access links. So the users will receive the email, and it will say when they need to join the queue or the waiting room, and they hit the link in the email, and they get to hopefully the pre-queue here. You can see the pre-queue starts here in 8 minutes, and then when the queue actually starts, all users are randomized, getting a place in the line like always, and eventually they will end up at your website and be able to get the shoes or the tickets or whatever it is that you have for sale. All right, so remember that this is still early access, so there are some manual steps in here, as you can see, like merging the files in Excel and so forth. In the future, we hope to be able to automate most of this inside the Qt platform, so you don't have to go through these tedious steps. What you've seen is production ready already, but you do need to reach out to us to get access. So now that we've seen how to set it up, let's just take a closer look at some of the main benefits. And Jennifer, will you take it away?
Yep. So what you can do with your things is you can reward loyal customers by running members only sales or limited access sales, and reward those customers who participated in previous sales or registrations. So it gives you the ability to like build loyalty by giving engaged repeat customers a chance to secure your products, and use those product drops to convert new customers into loyal and valuable customers. You could also structure each drop to reward the type of customer you'd like to see more of. So you could bring in more customers by rewarding, giving them those options for rewards, like giving the ability to climb the loyalty ladder by presenting criteria and like gamifying maybe even the drop experience. You can also improve the experience for customers who are missing out on a sale. So say you ran a sale for like 10,000 people, only 500 got the product. What happens to the other 9,500 who don't get the product? What can you do? You could increase the customer's satisfaction by offering the visitors who waited but didn't get your product the chance to sign up for future invite-only sales or registrations. So it gives you, the option to present it to those users. You can also expand your marketing audience. So you can grow first-party marketing data and assess future demand by offering visitors access to future invite-only sales and registrations in exchange for their email address. So increasing your marketing data.
Right. So I talked a little bit about these public sales where we do see a lot of bot activity in those, especially if there's a high value item at the end. So that maybe that's a graphic card, or it's a shoe, or it's something else ticketed. So we often see that we have more than 95% of the users are actually bots and bad actors. And traditional bot mitigation tools here will only have a quite limited effect. They usually tend to look at the request-based, and because there's so much to gain for the scalpers in these areas, or selling these products, it just becomes a race for the bot makers and the bot mitigation tools. And typically, what we see is that the scalpers that runs the ticketing bots or card bots or whatever, they will typically win this game. So what we've seen really works when we work with our customers is if we can validate the users up front and set up restrictions to who can access the items that are for sale. And that's exactly what we aim to do with this product. And Q already helps a lot of organizations with this, organizations that needs to meet strict regulatory requirements, like the know your customer that is that needs to be present in cryptocurrency, for instance, or NFTs or financial organizations. Another thing here, of course, what we can do is like we can start planning for traffic levels. One of the benefits that the waiting room itself provides is that you can throttle the speed of how fast the users are getting to your website, because we are buffering them up in the waiting room. But what we can also actually do with the invite-only waiting room is that we can plan how many can actually access the waiting room. So let's say you have 1,000 pair of shoes. Maybe you don't want more than, I don't know, 20,000 users in the waiting room, because you want to provide your users with a good experience, and at least a big part of them should be able to get the shoes. So you can restrict how many gets into the waiting room now with this invite-only waiting room. And then, of course, set up in minutes. You saw my little presentation here. Setting up the waiting room is quite fast, just like any other waiting room that we have. Obviously, there are some efforts with distributing the access links and so forth, but those are things that we will also help you with in the future. And right now, it's fairly easy to do still. So that's kind of what we had for this webinar. We do want to continue the conversation. So please, if this has sparked an interest with you, then do reach out to us. We would love to hear more about your use case and how our service can better support those requirements. So I'll be happy to engage with a talk with you.
Yeah, I see some questions here. Can the links be reused? If an event goes for 4 days, can someone re-enter?
Yeah, so that depends how we set it up. We can either set it up so it's a link that can only give you one place in the waiting room, and if you have used it or you have missed your opportunity, then that's just too bad. You can enter again. By default, though, it's going to allow users to have one active QID at the time. So if you miss your turn and you let's say you are in line and then you go grab coffee and you missed your turn, then you can actually get a new place in the waiting room, but you'll get to the end of the waiting room again, end of the queue, and you have to wait like everybody else. But we have the two options, and if the third one, then you can definitely look at that as well. So that's a yes and a no, I guess. What else do we have?
We also have a question here from Brian, who writes, are we able to open an invite-only queue if we notice that it's causing a product to sell much slower than we had hoped?
Right. So there are different ways to do this. I think what we suggest is that we set up multiple waiting rooms. So you might have an invite-only waiting room, and then you have a general sale later on, or maybe just after the invite-only has completed. So in this way, you kind of have a tiered approach. It's very common in ticketing, for instance, that you have fan clubs that get access to tickets like the day before, for instance. And then you can use the invite-only waiting room for the fan club sale, and then next day or the hour later or whatever, then you have a general available sale, just with a normal scheduled waiting room. Of course, you can also run them side by side if you want, but there's definitely options for this. So we have another question here. Is the invite-only waiting room fair? And that's a pretty interesting question. I mean, because it's definitely not fair for the ones that cannot access it, or at least they might not feel that it's fair. It's a little bit like the priority boarding in the airport, right? So you can board the plane earlier if you're disabled, if you have kids, or if you paid for it. And that's commonly accepted by everyone. So we believe that it's a bit like that you have to communicate these rules up front. So in NFT, for instance, we have some customers that have this tiered approach. So your profile can actually get to be in multiple tiers, and the higher tier you have, the more the earlier access you'll get to the NFTs. And the rules of climbing these ladders, the tier ladders, are communicated and clear to everybody. So people feel that it's fair that the ones that have a higher tier will access it earlier. So I think it's a little bit about how you communicate it. We do try to keep it in mind whenever we build something at Curate, that things have to be fair for the end users. That's the first product principle that we have, actually.
Great. I think we have time just for one last question, and we'll have to follow up with those of you who have submitted other questions. But I can see here there's one about if there are any limits in terms of the amount of invite links you can create, and what sort of bot protection is in place for people who are using these invite only links.
Right. So you can basically generate as many as you like. I think we do have set a upper limit. I can't remember if it's 1 million or something, but it's not. It's just for this while it's in early access and we test out the system. So it doesn't have to be 30,000. It can be 10, or it can be 1 million, basically. For the bot protection, the most efficient thing that I talked about is that you vet the users up front. So you're really the best persons to do that. So I mentioned, like, if someone have bought from you before, you know that they're probably a good user. Maybe they even send you an email, or you have some other data on the customers that allows you to mark this customer as a good user. And then you would try to send invites to only good users. Now, of course, that's easier said than done, but that is the idea. That's what we see is the most efficient way to do it. And that's also what we are supporting in this invite-only waiting room. That being said, you can do other things, like you can do with other waiting rooms, like you can put up captchas. We have the proof of work feature. You can block data center IPs and stuff like that. And we are going to invest even more into the bots and abuse space as well.
Great. Thanks, Martin. Jennifer, would you like to close things out for us today?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you are interested in this invite waiting room and you want to learn more, just reach out to your customer success manager. We can, go arrange a private demo, can talk to you about pricing, how to deploy it, and all those good things. So just reach out to your customer success manager. And there's also a blog link here if you want to. You can read more about it here as well too. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.